Good evening, everyone. This is Jaren İskit, and you are watching What's New, What's News. We are ahead of International Women Day 2024 tomorrow, and that's why we have a special YouTube live session today. And I have a really, really important guest today, İpek Bozkurt. She is a women's rights advocate and also a lawyer, and she has been working on this issue for quite a long time now. And let me invite her to my studio. Hello, İpek. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Yes, you have been working with women's rights issue in Turkey a lot. And also, I would like to highly recommend Dying to Divorce movie as well, which she was involved with the process, and also she was in the part of the movie, and she explained all the struggles of women in Turkey, and it was a really good documentary. If you are able to find it, you just watch it. I highly recommend that, as we showed it into Labor Film Festival in Turkey as well. Welcome.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be attending your program. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm so honored to be part of this special program. Tomorrow is 8th of March. And so, yes, it's a extensive agenda here in Turkey about 8th of March and women's rights and women's movement in general, I suppose, huh?
Yes, exactly. Tomorrow there will be huge march in Istanbul, Ankara, İzmir. Where else? I mean, across the Turkey, across the country. So it is important for women, and we have been struggling, especially when last year Istanbul Convention withdrew in one night, actually, with one man rule, as we always talking about. So let's start. Yes, my first question, of course, is about the Istanbul Convention.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What is motivated the Turkish government to withdraw it, and what are the implications does this decision have for women rights in Turkey?
For people who are not really, who may not be fully familiar with Istanbul Convention is an international document, international agreement, and Council of Europe agreement that sets the standard about how to fight against gender-based violence against women. So it's an international document, and it's called Istanbul Convention. It has its very lengthy Council of Europe name as well, but it is shortly, everyone knows among community, it's known as Istanbul Convention because it was signed in this beautiful city, Istanbul, and its first signatory was the government of Turkey, and it was the current government which signed, actually, which executed, implemented this document. And the important thing about Istanbul Convention is that it's a very sophisticated document that sets out a general framework, a very detailed framework, how to combat gender-based violence, and it's got its rules. So it's very detailed. It's been prepared in many years, actually. So it refers to these 4 P's. You would have to protect women or prevent any further damage, any further violence, and you have to prosecute such violence, and then you have to issue policy. So it's got all these 4 P's, and it's, as you might assume, attributes and forces governments who have signed this document to do a lot. So they just have to abide with these 4 P's and create policy, work with NGOs, and have very transparent women's rights agenda policies. And the significant thing about Istanbul Convention is that there is this monitoring agency as well. So it's got its monitoring group. It's called Grevio, which reviews whether the contracting parties like Turkey have been abiding with the rules. So they prepare periodical reviews and issue reports. So they're not only taking the opinion of the government, but also NGOs as well. So they're looking at independent data, independent climate, and so forth. And for the last two reports, Turkey's report has been, as you might imagine, quite critical and quite underlining issues where the government is defaulting intentionally and or without intention, and it forces the state to undertake lots of reforms, ameliorations like amendments, not only to the regulation but to the execution process, how the system works. So it's got this huge general view. It says, while your police officers are not doing this, and like the prosecution is problematic in that sense, legal process is this, you're not fulfilling the policy. So we have this agency that gives us a full data, full information, and full critical view of the women's politics of Turkey. And it didn't make the current government happy, of course. They're not used to being criticized that much, and they're not used to having such an opposing views or abiding with such rules and regulations. So there is this full resistance from the government. And instead of abiding such rules and fulfilling its duties and amending the problems to protect women, to prevent gender-based violence, the easier thing was, of course, to withdraw from Istanbul Convention. So I would define this process as Turkey's resistance to international mechanisms that would like to monitor rule of law and in democracy in general. So that's the reason why there was a withdrawal from Istanbul Convention without consultation with the NGOs or any of the national authorities. So it was a presidential decree, a single signature decree. So what has changed since the withdrawal? I think things have been going darker each year. So in that sphere, nothing has changed. But it actually showed us how ironic, how contradictory and is the current government's women's rights politics are. So while they're saying we have zero tolerance against violence, they're withdrawing from an international convention that tells you very much in detail how you could prevent such violence. So it's said words are here, and what is the reality of the I think the mentality, the ideology is something else. So I think that contradiction has found a reflection in the community as well, which says, well, the government says it's what is important is not women's rights, but it's the family, and if a document has adverse impact on family, it should go. So that provides that legitimacy that the family is seeking. That is, I think, one of the major significance of withdrawal.
I see. And there was a huge campaign before they withdrew the Istanbul Convention. And it is still alarming, actually, because they used this as an excuse for saying that this Istanbul Convention influenced women to divorce more, and also influence people to have a sympathy of LGBTQI plus community as well. So basically, they are targeting those minority communities as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we see that in the last 20 years, 2 decades maybe, all these anti-gender movements actually they find similarity and find solidarity in hate speech and being against independent women, LGBTQ community, and everything. So this is like by the way, this is not something confined, limited to Turkey, but it's there is such a part of the global patriarchy, global misogynistic, anti-gender movements move more or less in the same lanes. You know, they're not very creative. So you talk about women trying to make up their minds. It could be women who are trying to get an abortion, for instance, or it could be a woman trying to get a divorce, or it could be the craziness of the LGBTQ community. So the group that was the support for withdrawal from Istanbul Convention was not so interestingly. It focused on the fact that the convention led to divorce rates, which is not the case. There isn't even a reference to the word divorce in the document. There is not even like a reference to homosexuality, but it talks about, the document talks about gender-based violence. It could be based. There is not even a word about LGBTQ in the document either. So it talks about gender-based violence and what constitutes gender. It could be about sexuality, it could be about gender, it could be about sex, it could be about racial opinions, it could be about sexual orientation, all those things. So I think what we have in this age, in this era, you know, we have all these discussions about post-truth and what constitutes truth, how the reality is shifted, how people try to break it and shift the reality, disturb the reality. So I think that was how the protests against the Istanbul Convention were designed. So it's not something, it's not as you say, it's not new news, but it is there. So it's not new. It's not that the Turkish community found about it, but it's the everything. All the countries trying to fight, and all the NGOs trying to fight against gender-based violence. The protest against them is more or less designed in the same manner.
Yeah, and with the femicide realities in Turkey, it is very alarming that we even couldn't discuss. I mean, this is obvious, so we cannot only talking about the numbers or figures, but Bianet, one of our Turkish websites, independent media outlet, they made a report about women femicide and also domestic violence, which reflected on the local press and also mainstream press. So let me show it first and then we will come back again.
Okay.
Biyanet'in 1 Ocak 2023'ten 31 Aralık 2023'e kadar Türkiye'deki yerel, ulusal basın ve internet basında yansıyan haberlerden derlediği verilere göre erkekler 2023'te en az 333 kadını öldürdü. Erkeklerin öldürdüğü 15 kadın göçmendi. Erkekler 2023'te 18 kadına tecavüz etti, 355 kadını taciz etti, 28 çocuğu öldürdü, 371 kadını seks işçiliğine zorladı, 123 çocuğu istismar etti. Erkekler 2023'te en az 745 kadını yaraladı. Erkekler kadınların nerede öldürdü? Erkekler 233 kadını ev içinde, 83 kadını da ormanlık alan, hastane gibi ev dışı alanlarda öldürdü. Kadınları kim öldürdü? 2023'te 214 kadını kocası, sevgilisi gibi en yakınındaki partnerleri öldürdü. Erkekler kadınları nasıl öldürdü? Erkekler 196 kadını ateşli silahla, 100 kadını kesici aletle öldürdü.
Well, yes, this is the figures, and also according to the We Will Stop Femicide Femicide's platform, they reported at least 403 women were killed, murdered in Turkey, and the latest figure for the last 2 months, actually 71 women were killed. So according to those figures, what are the root causes of this alarming trend, and what steps can be taken to address it effectively, you think?
I think this is such a big question, and yeah, what are the reasons? I think it's there is not a single answer to this question, but it's an amalgamation, it's a collection of all different features, and I think one of them is that the community in our country, men have a feeling that if they kill someone, if they kill a woman, or if they exert violence against a woman, they have a feeling that they could get away with it. So it's this is called the climate of impunity, cezasızlık. Impunity is raised through the litigation process, how the litigation is protecting women when in femicide cases or in domestic violence cases, when men know that they could get away with reduced sentences when they kill someone, or they beat up their wives, or like ex-fiancés. Men also find legitimacy for their actions from the discourse, from the words of the president of this country, from the words and the discourse of the ministers and public officials, who either openly now or discreetly approve that you could do anything to a woman when she's not abiding with this social conduct, when she's asking for a divorce, when she's not letting her daughter see the father because he's drunk or he's not properly executing its fatherhood duties. So basically, men find this legitimacy as well, and this is the politics where they find it. This is in the TV mainstream TV series motivate and fuel this gender-based discriminatory environment. So they're born into this discriminatory, gender-based discriminatory environment, and the society with its own religious features, with its own social conduct, feels such gender-based discrimination. So when you grow up knowing this conduct, knowing that you could do anything to a woman, you feel entitled to do that. So it's the community itself. It's the issue, the how the community is shaped. It's shaped through the politics of the government. So the government, even though it says like they have a zero tolerance against violence, they also say that women belong to the family, women belong to motherhood, and women should not be much appreciative of divorces. So a man would say if they want to kill a woman who wants to get a divorce, they find this legitimacy. So it's and they find the legitimacy in the reduced sentences. They find the legitimacy in their families, who would support their sons, who would and just declare them heroes when they kill their wives. So it's a matter of collective knowledge of that, collective knowledge that if you kill someone, if you kill your wife, if you kill your ex-partner, or if you hit someone in public space, there is an increase in bodily harm in public space as well, with no reason at all. A man knows that he could get away with it. I think the second part of your question is that how does this change? what we do as a platform, we will stop femicide platform, and many other women's organizations are trying to do that. We're trying to also raise awareness that you cannot get away with this. So the message to the community is that you cannot get away with it, and gender-based violence is not acceptable. This is a struggle. This is a combat against the mentality, the social mentality. Of course, you just cannot change the social code so much, but with the litigation system, when you are prosecuting perpetrator of the femicide, or prosecuting perpetrator of a domestic violence case, the system would give the message to the perpetrator that no, he's going to suffer a lot. So what we're trying to do when we're providing legal advocacy work is that we want the perpetrators know that they cannot get away with it. So that is the struggle, that is the motivation that we have. So we're trying to put good examples as well. It's not a very dark picture, but there are good developments and fight against that. We at least know that what we're fighting against, when you're fighting against gender-based violence, when you're combating against gender-based violence, when you're trying to eradicate gender-based violence, it is very important to know the motives that fuel such gender-based discrimination. I think the women's movement in Turkey is very much aware of the historic and the political motivations of such discrimination.
That's true. And I have another question speaking about the femicide. I mean, with the legal system, what kind of reforms? I mean, yes, Istanbul Convention withdrew, but on the other hand, there should be a way in the legal system that maybe can change and then stop this kind of femicide or domestic violence. Because as an example, when we see a woman who is facing domestic violence, when she reports to the police station, mostly the police officers are convincing them to go back their home, the violence they face. This is only one example. I mean, this is only a simple example in Turkey. And some of them, even they are prosecuted, especially, I mean, when they face a violence. After 6 months of detention or any kind of, like, I don't know the legal word, please let me know about it, but when they stay out of the house and cannot enter that house within at least 6 months, they're coming back and they're kind of calling it a revenge, even make it worse. So there should be something, maybe make a reform for the legal system, shouldn't it? I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to understand the legal system as well, because with the big picture, it is a little bit desperate for women to deal with, fight against this kind of violation. What do you think about that?
I think it's not only the legal system. Of course, its legal system has its own defaults and everything, and the police officer is not doing their job. But the thing is, this phenomena, this problem is not only a problem of the legal system. It's not about only the penalties, but it's about economic independence of women as well, educational rights. So when we're talking about obligatory minimum primary education of young girls, we're talking about that, because being part of the formal education system would at least give you an opportunity to have a future career, to be able to be part of the formal social security system is important. To be a citizen, it's important that you would have access to health system. It would be important that you would be able to have a job to support your kid. So of course, sticking just like locking women to the notion of family, the family of the father, and then to the family of the husband or whoever, getting rid of these women an independent life of their own. Its independence is lost, and then without having neither the education nor the economic independence, nor having the ability to be part of the formal social security system, it is very difficult for a woman coming from a fragile economic class to make its independent decisions. You know, to go, the women consider where would they be able to go with their kids, you know, to public protection houses. They're called shunims. You would not be able to take a young boy older than 12 years of age. So where would you go if you're suffering from domestic violence, if you cannot go to your family house, you've never worked, and you have a son at the age of 13? So these are not only issues that the legal system may tackle, but it has its down deep-rooted reasons and impediments that make the problem much more difficult to solve. That is the reason why women's movement, many NGOs, why Türkan Saylan, one of the most esteemed incorporators of Çağdaş Yaşamı Destekleme Derneği, why she was talking about the education of young girls, primary school education, why she was talking about reproductive health, reproductive opportunities. And those are the things, of course, that shape the future of women. And unless you have any of those, it's very difficult for women to move, to make decisions. And the system is basically doing that, trying to lock women to the family, trying to decrease their voices, and not make them entitled citizens, and just merely put them in the second place behind a man, so they do not appear as one. There are women who cannot even leave their neighborhood. Where would they go? To the police station? Their husbands, their partners are friends with the police in their neighborhood. So it's all these how should I say, logistics and social impediments that make this problem quite difficult to tackle. But that's the reason why each NGO is trying to tackle a feature of the problem. We are providing legal advocacy work. Another NGO is providing labor and recruitment opportunities to women coming from fragile economic backgrounds. Other community is doing this and that. So it's just trying to empower women in that sense, to make up, to be able to make their own independent decisions about their lives.
Yes. Well, socioeconomically, women are not free, of course, dealing with such violence like that. And that's why the trends are never decreased. It's day by day, it's increasing as well, I think.
Yeah,
and
I mean, if you cannot solve the roots, and it's just like you're trying to water and a wonderful flower, but if you do not check the seeds, so if you do not check the roots, whether they are in a good, healthy situation, it's impossible for the flower to bloom. That's, I think, one of the problems. I think that is one of the reasons as well why we're having so much discussions and so much voice against alimony, child support, for instance. Just to
this is what I'm going to speak about it now, because recently on October, actually, New Welfare Party proposed a new rule of law which limits alimony for 5 years only for women, especially, and then if they keep taking the alimony, they are saying that social and family minister will be responsible to provide those kind of alimonies to the woman. And now it is still evaluating in the parliament, but this is another case of Turkey, because the ruling party, especially before the general election, they were allied with right-wing parties in the parliament, and majority is now campaigning such offers like that. So how do you evaluate that? Because we're talking about women's poverty, we're talking about children's conditions, we're talking about how they can provide such good finding a way of freely dealing with their economical status, etc. So how do you evaluate that? And also, would it be possible, really possible, for Parliament to accept this offer and then make it happen for women or people? They call it people and desperate husbands, because I had an interview with one of the MPs of New Welfare Party. So how do you evaluate that one?
I think it's the most terrifying and issue that there could be solidarity among current government and other its supporter parties about poverty of women. So it's there is the solidarity about reducing rights of women. I think what is tragic is that it's the solidarity is about decreasing rights of half of the population, and not even providing data. So none of the parties, this government cannot. They always rely on, there are so many men who suffer from alimony, and who are those men? There are NGOs and so forth. But what is the data? Who benefits from alimony and support, and who suffers from the other alimony? And we're talking about support, nafaka, alimony in Turkish. We've got two parts to do alimony. We've got the child support that the father, it's generally the party who doesn't have the custody, that provides. And the other one is a poverty alimony that is paid to the woman who has not been working, who is not working, and who has not worked and in life, so to support her. Think about it. If a woman who didn't even complete her primary education, who was living with her family until the age of 16 or 17 and was married, juvenile, didn't have any chance to work, not being part of the formal employment system, labor system at all, who's been living with the husband for 20 years, got a child, 2 kids, who's never worked, who is not part of the formal system at all, and trying to get a divorce. If the woman knows that she would be getting at least poverty alimony from the husband, she would be able to say, okay, I could at least rely on that. But otherwise, not entitling such woman any alimony. I'm not talking about the child support, but I'm talking about the alimony for her. Then we would basically be just locking her in a family, in a marriage that's not that's physically and emotionally very disturbing. So the current government and new welfare, Refah, are not even discussing what sort of alimony are talking about. And unless this government, this state has specific answers and solutions to women who did not get primary education, who were locked up from their father's house to their husband's house, unless we solve that socioeconomic problem, rejecting them a right to alimony is basically not giving them sufficient citizenship rights. These problems, alimony is not a separate issue. It's about women who are not part of the formal system to get some support to be able to start an independent life. So that's it. So we're not talking about the alimony, a privileged woman from a higher upper class or a middle class, not coming from a fragile economic background, is getting. We're not talking about that alimony. So the discussion is intentionally made about this privileged woman and that they do not deserve it. But we're not talking about that woman. I think that is the bad faith discussions that are made in this country are that we're talking about Ayşe Hanım, who comes from this little village, who was married at the age of 15 or 16 and only lived in her father's house until 16, then in the husband's house with her mother-in-law and father-in-law, who gave birth at an underage age, and then had to look after the mother-in-law, had to look after, be the caregiver to the father-in-law, had to grow up 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever, had to look up do the household work, and at the age of 40, 45 maybe, and she wants to have a life. It's nearly very difficult for such a woman. Women are so brave in our country, so inspiring, but I mean, the system should be able to support brave women. The system currently is inclined to demotivate women, brave women. So it's just like suffocating for many women.
That is all true, and hopefully this won't be on the table even to be discussed, I hope, because
exactly. There's of course a big amendment package for the civil law, Türk Medeni Kanun, Turkish civil law, but it's always done behind closed doors and everything. And since there's not a consultation at the parliamentary level, it's a bit disturbing at the moment.
Yeah, it's another discussions is now about the civil law in Turkey, because there are some controversial articles, codes on that new civil law that the ruling party is defending it like a new reform of the civil law. But when we dig in and read the details, even with the surname, there hasn't been any kind of change.
Exactly. Yes, it's about I mean, yeah, there's not an execution of the constitutional court decision, so it's a choice. It's the current government makes it choices, which is comprehensible. What would be beneficial for them, and not for women, but for the ruling party, for the codes, social codes, and the social norms that they want to implement.
And have you heard about the rumors about the adoption part, actually, which was a little bit interesting? Because there was a document contains 67 pages, and there was one adoption article on that part, and this time they're giving a right, one of the part of the couple can adopt a child now. And when I ask someone about the consequences, it's kind of a little bit concerning for me. Have you heard about that one?
I didn't, but I mean, we just have to read the reasoning and so forth. So in Turkey, unfortunately, the lawmaking has become not something that covers the social needs and like it covers the social problems, but it is something, it becomes as a like a playing ground for the current government to implement their own policy. So it's not possible to have a technical reading of any amendments or any proposals, but the reading is generally focused on real intention of the lawmakers.
I see. Well, I have another question. I will come back to Istanbul Convention because it was a huge struggle in Turkey, especially with the women movement as well. All of you were following the trials about withdraw the decision. So and at the end, of course, the prosecution decided, and the Supreme Court decided, no, it will be withdrawal, and this is the case now. And when you see this kind of significant, I mean, when you see Istanbul Convention is a significant international treaty aimed at preventing and combating violence against women. Well, we spoke about it, but what do you think the potential consequences Turkey's withdrawal from this convention? I mean, the broader region and globally. Because when I had a session, YouTube live session with Mr. Brunner recently, even it is on the table of European Union now. When we withdraw the Istanbul Convention, which is against the human rights, they evaluate like that. So there isn't any opening gate for Turkey to be a membership, to have a membership even with the EU. I mean, now it's not even on the table. It's not even the Turkey's agenda. But what do you think about that?
I think it's Turkey. I think Turkey is not on EU's agenda for so long. I mean, we have stopped complying with the acquis. We've all the economic rights and privatization laws, and like the other institutions are questioned, underlined. I mean, think about it. We're not local first instance courts. Penal codes are not obliging with the decisions of constitutional court in Turkey. I mean, higher courts are not listened to. Turkey is not executing the decisions of the European Court of Human Rights. So it's part of that international treaty, and it's not doing that. Imprison political party leaders and MPs are not released from prison, despite there are 2 and 3 constitutional court decisions. So we're not talking about a proper rule of law. We're talking about a very defamed rule of law. We're talking about an erosion in democracy, and Istanbul Convention is merely one of the phases of such decline in rule of law. So I do not think that it is. I mean, in a country which is supposed to be a rule of law, if the constitutional court cannot implement its decision, anything could happen. So there is no security and transparency of law. So I don't think I would. I mean, looking at this picture, withdrawal from Istanbul Convention not only has its adverse impact on the women's rights, and it shows that the irony of the current government against its alleged combat against violence. It's not trustworthy. It's not reliable, and it is another symbol that shows that Turkey does not want to be monitored and be subject to the review of international bodies. So
I see. And how individuals and communities you think contribute this ongoing struggle? Because in Turkey now, not recently, but I think over maybe a decade, the women empower, the aim of empower women, and the women movement is a little bit, now on the public as well, like visible for everyone. How they contribute for that, for the struggle, you think? We are coming to an end, so that's why I
Yeah,
want to
I think
ask
it's
this question.
the Turkish in Turkey, since there is so much pressure against freedom of speech, freedom of collective action, and erosion in rule of law, and that leads to erosion in democracy. It's very difficult to be in public space and to voice out your criticism. So there is so much of very strict police force against all citizens who would like to come together. You know, all the I'm sure you're familiar with this Saturday mothers who come together and
Yeah.
who want to grieve and put like a memory gathering for their children who've been lost in police custody and who've been killed. And for the last 3-4 years, they cannot even gather. Each time they want to come together, there is a police attack. And we're talking about 8th of March tomorrow. For the last few years, it's not possible to have a march at all. So we're gathered in this small, tiny streets of one of the neighborhoods and try to protest. And it's not even a protest; it's a celebratory day. We cannot have a celebratory date in June at the Pride. We cannot celebrate 1st of May, and nothing basically. So women's movement and in solidarity with the LGBTQ community, I think, trying to be inspiring and find empowerment in solidarity. So they are nearly left. 2 groups that are left in the public space to still have the motivation and the urge and like the need and the zest to come out in the public space. So that makes them very special, and I think that makes them very brave as well, which is, I would say, recognized by the community.
Yes. Well, 47 minutes now since we started. I know there are a lot of things to talk about women's rights. It is in Turkey. It is a huge problem, and it is very important that women are still in solidarity. I think we can easily say that, and we're seeing in publicly as well. At least they have still finding themselves a gap public in public space as well, so which is very hopeful for me. May I get your last words about International Women's Day in Turkey, and what would you like to include as well?
I think Turkey's women's rights movement has been since the republic has been very inspiring, very intellectual, and very zestful. So it's got all its colors, it's got its memory lane, it respects its community, and that's the reason why solidarity works for Turkish women, and not the Turkish women only, the Kurdish and the Turkish women, and all the people in Turkey now, all the women in Turkey. So I hope and I wish for brighter days for women.
Thank you so much, İpek Bozkurt. It was a pleasure to have you in my YouTube live session, and I know we have a lot of talk. We have a lot to talk, but well, our time is a little bit precious and limited. But thanks very much for joining me today's discussion, especially for this special before the special event in Istanbul. I suppose you are in Istanbul, and hopefully you will have a wonderful day in tomorrow in Istanbul. And stay safe, İpek. I think you closed your camera. Can you hear me? No, I think she's gone. Anyways, well, yeah, this is the thing. We have a lot of things to talk about women's rights in Turkey, but I think we have a significant developments is happening in Turkey, which is the reality of women and their movement, and they are constantly, tirelessly working on how to be in solidarity, and this is very important. Tomorrow will be 8th of March. I'm wishing all women and LGBTQI plus community to have a wonderful day tomorrow. And of course, I'm wishing you a safe March, because it is another problem in Turkey with the police force. But hopefully we will have a peaceful march tomorrow, feminist night march. So there's an invitation video for tomorrow. I will leave you with this video, and happy Women's Day.